The morning sun on New Busan felt warm against Lee Nari's face as she checked her equipment one last time. The mining scanner beeped softly in her hands, showing rich mineral deposits just 3 kilometers ahead. Her older brother, Park Day, was loading supplies into their hover truck, whistling an old Earth song their mother used to sing. "The readings look perfect, Day," Nari called out. "Kim Bo was right about this location." Day looked up from the supply boxes and frowned slightly. "I still don't trust him completely. Something feels wrong about this whole deal." Kim Bo had approached them 2 weeks ago with what seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. He claimed to have inside information about untapped mineral veins in the outer territories. The man was Korean like them, from the same colony ship that brought their family to New Busan 15 years ago. That shared history made Nari want to trust him, but Day's instincts were usually better than hers. "He's one of us, Day. Why would he lie?" Nari secured the scanner to her belt and climbed into the passenger seat. "Money makes people do strange things, especially out here on the frontier." Day started the engine and the hover truck lifted smoothly off the ground. "But you're right. The mineral readings don't lie, and we need this score." Their parents had died in a mining accident 3 years ago, leaving Nari and Day to fend for themselves. At 19, Nari was young for frontier mining work, but life on New Busan had made her tough. The colony world had harsh weather, dangerous wildlife, and gravity that was heavier than old Earth. Most aliens couldn't even visit New Busan without special equipment. They called it a death world and said humans were crazy for living there. The journey to the mining site took 2 hours through rough terrain. Red rocks and twisted metal trees stretched in all directions under the pale blue sky. Occasionally, they passed the rusted remains of old mining equipment, abandoned when the easy minerals ran out. "There's the marker Kim Bo told us about." Nari pointed to a tall metal pole with faded numbers. "The mineral vein should be just beyond that ridge." They parked the hover truck and began unloading their equipment. The mining site looked perfect, isolated, with good mineral readings and no signs of previous excavation. Nari felt excited as they set up the portable drill. This could be the big find they needed to pay off their debts, and maybe even leave. New Busan for a better world. "Nari, look at this." Day was examining the ground near a cluster of rocks. "These marks look like landing burns from a ship, recent ones." She walked over to see what he was pointing at. The rocky ground showed clear signs of repeated landings by a large spacecraft. The burns were too fresh to be from old mining operations. "Maybe Kim Bo has been using this site for other deals," Nari suggested, but her stomach was starting to feel tight with worry. "Or maybe this is a trap." Day stood up and reached for the communication device on his belt. "We should call for backup." Before he could activate the communicator, the air filled with a high-pitched whining sound. 3 large ships appeared over the ridge, moving fast and low. They were not human ships. The designs were all wrong, too smooth, with strange angles, and colors that hurt to look at. "Run!" Day grabbed Nari's arm, and they sprinted toward their hover truck. The alien ships landed quickly, blocking their escape route. Ramps opened, and strange creatures poured out. Some looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. Others were covered in scales and had too many arms. All of them carried weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. "Humans confirmed," one of the creatures spoke in broken English through a translation device. 2 specimens as promised. Kim Bo appeared from behind one of the ships, counting metal credits in his hands. He looked at Nari and Day with cold eyes, showing no shame about his betrayal. "I'm sorry," Kim Bo said, but his voice showed he wasn't sorry at all. The money they offered was too good to refuse. Humans are worth a lot in the core worlds, especially ones from death worlds like this. "You sold us," Nari whispered, unable to believe what was happening. "We trusted you." "Trust doesn't pay debts," Kim Bo replied. "These aliens pay very well for healthy human specimens. You should feel honored. You're going to the arena worlds." Day stepped in front of Nari, putting himself between her and the alien slavers. "Let my sister go. Take me, but leave her alone." The largest alien, something that looked like a walking crocodile with 4 arms, made a sound that might have been laughter. "Both humans come. Female is more valuable for entertainment. Deathworlders fight well in arena." The aliens moved forward, with their weapons raised. Day tried to fight them, throwing punches and kicks that would have knocked out any human. But the aliens were ready for resistance. They surrounded him quickly, using some kind of energy net that made his muscles stop working. "Day!" Nari tried, to help her brother. But more aliens grabbed her arms. She struggled as hard as she could, but there were too many of them. One of the insect-like creatures injected something into Day's neck. He fell unconscious immediately, his body going limp. In the alien's grip. "What did you do to him?" Nari screamed, fighting against the creatures holding her. "Sleep drug. He will wake up later. Both humans must be healthy for sale," the large alien explained. "You fight now, or we make you sleep too." Nari wanted to keep fighting, but she could see it was hopeless. There were too many aliens, and their weapons were too advanced. If she got knocked unconscious like Day, she couldn't help him at all. "I'll cooperate," she said quietly. "Just don't hurt my brother." Smart deathworlder, the alien leader seemed pleased. "Load both humans onto transport ship. Kimbo, your payment is complete." Kimbo nodded and walked away without looking back. Nari watched him leave and promised herself that if she ever got free, she would make him pay for this betrayal. The aliens carried Day's unconscious body into one of their ships. They forced Nari to walk behind them, keeping energy weapons pointed at her back. Inside the ship, everything was too bright and smelled like chemicals. They put Day in some kind of medical pod and locked Nari in a small metal room. As the ship lifted off from New Busan, Nari pressed her face against the small window and watched her home world disappear. She had heard stories about the arena worlds in the galactic core. Aliens from across the galaxy came to watch creatures fight and die for entertainment. Most fighters lasted only minutes before being killed, but the aliens had made one mistake. They thought humans were just another species to be captured and sold. They didn't understand what it meant to grow up on a death world. They didn't know that humans could survive things that would kill most other creatures. Nari sat down on the hard metal floor of her cell and began planning. She would find a way to free herself and Day. And when she did, these aliens would learn why humans were called deathworlders. 3 weeks of space travel had passed in a blur of metal walls and stale recycled air. Nari sat in her cell beneath the grand arena of Corvin Prime, listening to the sounds of the alien city above. The noise never stopped. Engines, voices, speaking in languages she didn't understand, and the constant rumble of crowd movements. The holding cells were carved from black stone deep underground. Each cell held a different type of creature, all waiting to fight in the arena. Most of them looked scared. Some had been here so long they just stared at the walls with empty eyes. First time in the arena? Nari looked up to see another human woman in the cell across from hers. The woman was older, maybe 30, with short black hair and scars on her arms. She looked Korean, but spoke with an accent Nari didn't recognize. "Yes, I'm Nari. What's your name?" "Chohana. I've been here 2 months now. Survived 4 fights so far, which makes me lucky." Hana sat down near the bars of her cell. "Most humans don't last past their first fight." "How many humans have they brought here?" Nari asked. "I've seen maybe 40 since I arrived. You're the second one still alive." Hana's voice was quiet and sad. "The aliens love watching us fight because we're from death worlds. They think it makes us more dangerous and entertaining." "What happened to the others?" "Dead. All dead. The arena masters don't understand that being from a tough world doesn't automatically make you a good fighter. Most of the humans they bring here are farmers, miners, traders. Regular people who never learned to fight. Nari felt cold inside. My brother Day was captured with me. Do you know where they keep the male prisoners? Medical wing, probably. They like to do things to the males before putting them in the arena. Experiments, surgeries, modifications. Hana looked angry. The aliens think they can make us better fighters by changing our bodies. Heavy footsteps echoed down the stone corridor. A massive alien appeared in front of Nari's cell. It looked like a giant lizard walking on 2 legs with 4 arms and yellow eyes. Its skin was covered in scales that changed color in the dim light. Human female, you fight today. The creature's voice came through a translation device that made it sound mechanical. I am Arena Master Vorthak. You will provide entertainment for the afternoon games. I want to see my brother first. Nari stood up and faced the alien directly. Vorthak made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans always make demands. You are property now. Property does not make demands. Then I won't fight. You will fight, or you will be fed to the arena beast while still alive? The crowd enjoys watching creatures being eaten almost as much as they enjoy combat. Vorthak's scales shifted to a darker color. Choose. Nari realized she had no real choice. If she refused to fight, they would kill her anyway. At least in the arena, she might have a chance to survive and find D later. What kind of opponents will I face? 8 Corvin warriors. They are young and eager to prove themselves by killing a deathworlder. The crowd will cheer when you die. Vorthak seemed pleased by this idea. You will be given basic armor and a simple weapon. Nothing more. 8 against 1? That hardly seems fair. Fair? Vorthak's yellow eyes focused on her with what looked like amusement. This is not about fair. This is about entertainment. The crowd wants to see a deathworlder struggle before dying. 8 opponents will make the fight last longer. An hour later, guards came to escort Nari to the preparation chambers. As they walked through the corridors, she could hear the crowd above getting louder and more excited. The sound echoed off the stone walls like thunder. Remember, Hana called out as Nari was led away. Use everything. The arena has traps and tools if you know where to look. Don't fight like they expect you to fight. The preparation chamber was a small room with stone benches and weapon racks. An alien technician, something that looked like a walking stick insect, handed Nari a set of leather armor and a simple metal sword. Armor is standard gladiator protection. Sword is sharp, but not enhanced. You have 10 minutes to prepare. The technician's voice was high and clicking. Any questions? What are the arena rules? No rules. Fight until one side is dead. Arena has environmental hazards that activate randomly. Gravity wells, energy barriers, flame jets. These make fights more interesting for spectators. Nari put on the leather armor. It was meant for someone with a different body shape, but it would have to do. The sword felt good in her hand, heavier than she expected, but well balanced. She spent the remaining time doing stretches and exercises to prepare her muscles. Time to fight, the technician announced. Guards led her through a tunnel that sloped upward toward bright light. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step. At the end of the tunnel was a massive metal gate covered with symbols she couldn't read. Through the gaps in the gate, she could see the arena. It was enormous, at least 200 meters across, with high walls and thousands of aliens in the seats above. The floor was covered with sand and scattered with obstacles. Metal posts, stone blocks, and strange machines that probably controlled the environmental hazards. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species. A voice boomed across the arena in multiple languages. Today, we present a special treat, a human deathworlder from the frontier world of New Busan. The crowd roared with excitement. Nari could see them in the seats, creatures of every shape and color imaginable. Some looked like insects, others like reptiles or plants. A few were so strange she couldn't tell what they were supposed to be. Facing Our human today are 8 brave warriors of the Corvan Empire. Let the bloodshed begin." The gate in front of Nari began to rise slowly. Sunlight streamed in, temporarily blinding her after weeks in the dark cells. She stepped forward onto the arena sand, squinting in the bright light. Across the arena, another gate was opening. 8 aliens in metal armor marched out in formation. They carried energy weapons that glowed with blue light, and their armor looked far more advanced than Nari's simple leather protection. The Corvan warriors spread out in a line, clearly planning to surround her quickly. They moved with confidence, probably thinking this would be an easy victory against one lightly armed human. Nari gripped her sword and tried to remember everything her father had taught her about fighting when she was younger. The crowd's screaming faded into background noise as she focused on her opponents. The arena announcer's voice echoed again. "Let the games begin!" The 8 Corvan warriors began advancing toward her, their weapons charging with deadly energy. The first Corvan warrior fired his energy weapon before Nari had taken 3 steps into the arena. The blue bolt of energy sizzled past her head, missing by centimeters. She dove to the right, rolling behind a metal post as more energy blasts lit up the air where she had been standing. The crowd cheered loudly, excited by the immediate action. 80,000 alien voices created a wall of sound that would have been overwhelming, but Nari forced herself to focus only on staying alive. The 8 Corvan warriors spread out in a wide circle, trying to surround her. They moved slowly and carefully, clearly planning to trap her in the center of the arena where she would have nowhere to run. Their energy weapons hummed with power as they charged up for another volley. Nari studied her opponents quickly. The Corvan looked like giant lizards walking upright, but their movements were slow and predictable. Their armor was impressive but heavy, and they seemed to rely completely on their advanced weapons. They probably expected her to panic and make mistakes. Instead, she did something they didn't expect. She ran straight toward the nearest warrior, using her smaller size and lighter armor to move faster than they thought possible. The Corvan warrior raised his weapon to fire, but Nari was already too close. She slashed upward with her sword, cutting through the cables that connected his weapon to his armor's power source. Sparks flew as the energy weapon died in his hands. "What?" the warrior said in his own language, staring at his useless weapon. Nari didn't give him time to think. She spun around and drove her sword into the gap between his helmet and chest armor. The blade found soft flesh underneath the scales, and the warrior fell backward onto the sand. 1 down, 7 to go. The other Corvan warriors shouted in alarm and began firing wildly. Nari sprinted toward a cluster of stone blocks, using them as cover while energy bolts cracked the stone around her. She could smell burning rock and metal as the powerful weapons left scorch marks everywhere they hit. "The human is faster than expected," the arena announcer's voice boomed over the crowd noise. "But she cannot hide forever." Nari wasn't planning to hide. While the warriors reloaded their weapons, she noticed something important about the arena floor. There were metal grates scattered around, and some of them glowed with a faint red light. Chohana had told her to look for traps and tools. These grates might be the environmental hazards the technician had mentioned. She grabbed a piece of broken stone and threw it at one of the glowing grates. Immediately, a pillar of flame shot up from the floor, reaching almost to the arena ceiling. The crowd gasped in surprise and delight. Now she had a plan. 2 Corvan warriors moved toward her position, coordinating their approach to trap her between the stone blocks. They communicated in their own language, probably thinking she couldn't understand their tactics. Nari waited until they were almost close enough to see her, then she broke cover and ran toward another group of obstacles. As she expected, the warriors followed her, firing their weapons and trying to cut off her escape route. She led them in a wide circle around the arena, staying just ahead of their energy blasts. The warriors were getting frustrated and careless, focusing so much on hitting her that they stopped paying attention to where they were stepping. when the first warrior stepped on a glowing grate, a gravity well activated beneath his feet. Suddenly, he weighed 3 times as much as normal and crashed to the ground, unable to move in his heavy armor. Nari ran back and finished him with her sword before the gravity well turned off. 2 down, 6 to go. The remaining warriors began to understand they were dealing with something more dangerous than they had expected. They stopped chasing her individually and formed a tight group, moving together and covering each other's movements. "Clever deathworlder," one of them called out in broken English. "But you cannot run forever. We have more weapons, more armor. You will tire before we do." He was probably right about that. Nari was already breathing hard from all the running and fighting. The arena's gravity was lighter than New Busan's, which helped, but she needed to end this fight quickly before exhaustion made her slow. She noticed that the warriors were standing near one of the larger metal structures in the arena. It looked like some kind of control device, with cables running from it to various points around the arena floor. If she could damage it, maybe she could activate more environmental hazards. Nari picked up the energy weapon from the first warrior she had. Killed. The power source was damaged, but it still had some charge left. She aimed carefully and fired at the control device. The energy bolt hit the machine and caused a massive electrical explosion. Suddenly, environmental hazards began activating all over the arena. Gravity wells, flame jets, and energy barriers turned on and off randomly, creating chaos on the arena floor. The crowd went wild with excitement as the arena became a deadly maze of traps and obstacles. The remaining 6 Corvin warriors found themselves separated and confused, trying to avoid the hazards while still hunting for Nari. She used the chaos to her advantage, moving quickly between safe zones and picking off the warriors one by one. When a warrior got trapped by a gravity well, she attacked before he could escape. When another got caught between 2 energy barriers, she threw her sword like a spear and struck him in the throat. The 4th warrior tried to use his comrades. Weapons after his own ran out of power, but Nari had been collecting energy cells from the fallen enemies. She had learned how to operate their weapons by watching them, and now she turned their own technology against them. The 5th warrior actually begged for mercy in English when he realized he was the last one left. "Please, human, I have family. I did not want to fight you." But Nari remembered her brother Day, somewhere in this alien complex, probably being tortured and experimented on. She remembered Kim Bo's betrayal and the weeks in the slave ship. Mercy was a luxury she couldn't afford. When the last Corvin warrior fell, the arena went completely silent. 80,000 alien spectators stared down at the small human female standing alone among 8 corpses. She was covered in blood and sand, breathing heavily, but very much alive. The silence stretched for almost a full minute before the arena announcer found his voice again. "Impossible," he whispered, and the translation devices carried his words to every seat in the arena. "In 1 hour, the deathworlder has killed them all. All 8 warriors are dead." Nari raised her captured energy weapon above her head and shouted toward the VIP viewing boxes where she could see richly dressed aliens watching in shock. "I want my brother. Bring me Park Day or send me more enemies to kill." The crowd suddenly exploded into noise again, some cheering, some booing, some making sounds she couldn't identify. But in the VIP section, she could see important-looking aliens talking urgently among themselves. Arena Master Vorthak appeared at the edge of the buy. Arena, his scales dark with what might have been anger or fear. "Return to your cell, human," he commanded through the sound system. "The games are over for today." "The games are over when I say they're over," Nari shouted back. "Send me more fighters or bring me my brother. Those are your only choices." Vorthak's yellow eyes stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke to someone off-camera, and Nari heard the words that would change everything. "Send word to the Emperor, and prepare the elite guard units. This human is more dangerous than we thought." Emperor Corvin arrived at the arena within 30 minutes of receiving Arena Master Vorthak's emergency message. The massive alien ruler was twice the size of a normal Corvin, with ceremonial armor that gleamed like liquid metal. His 4 arms moved constantly as he spoke, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "Explain to me how one small human female killed 8 of my warriors," the Emperor demanded as he took his place in the royal viewing box. "Your Majesty, we underestimated the deathworlder," Vorthak replied, his scales shifting nervously between colors. "The human fought with tactics we did not expect. She used our own arena systems against us." Down on the arena floor, Nari had spent the break between fights preparing for whatever came next. She had stripped armor pieces from the fallen Corvin warriors and created better protection for herself. She had also collected all the energy weapons she could carry, along with spare power cells and various pieces of equipment. The arena's environmental hazards had mostly shut down after she damaged the control system, but she had noticed patterns in how they worked. Some of the grates and panels could still be activated manually if she knew where to step or what to hit. "Send 12 elite guards," Emperor Corvin commanded. "End this embarrassment quickly." But something strange was happening in the guard barracks beneath the arena. Word had spread quickly about what the human had done in the first fight. The guards who were ordered to enter the arena were looking at video recordings of Nari's victory, and they were afraid. "She moves too fast," Guard Captain Mokhtar said to his troops. The amphibious alien's skin was pale with worry. "Look how she killed Warrior Zeth. One strike, perfectly placed. She studied our armor and found its weakness in seconds." "It's just one human," Guard Lieutenant Crix protested, but his voice lacked confidence. "We have superior numbers and better equipment." "The first 8 warriors thought the same thing," Mokhtar replied. "Now they are dead." On the arena floor, Nari heard the announcement that 12 guards were being prepared for the second fight. She used the time to test her captured weapons and make sure she understood how they worked. The energy rifles were more powerful than the sidearms, but they used power faster. She would need to be careful with her shots. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," the announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "Emperor Corvin himself has come to witness the second battle. 12 elite palace guards will now face the human deathworlder." The crowd cheered, but Nari noticed the sound was different from before. There was uncertainty mixed with the excitement. Some of the aliens in the stands were clearly worried about what they might see. The arena gates opened and 12 heavily armored guards marched out in perfect formation. Their equipment was much better than the first group. Powered armor, energy, shields, and weapons that hummed with dangerous force. They moved with military precision, but Nari could see something in their body language that gave her hope. They were scared. The guards advanced slowly across the arena, staying in tight formation and scanning constantly for threats. They had studied the recordings of her first fight and were trying not to make the same mistakes, but their caution worked against them, making them predictable. Nari had positioned herself behind a large metal barrier near the center of the arena. She had several escape routes planned and had placed spare weapons at strategic points around the fighting area. When the guards came within range, she started her attack. Instead of charging at them like before, she used the captured energy rifle to attack from a distance. Her first shot took down the guard on the left flank, catching him in the gap between his helmet and shoulder armor. The formation immediately shifted to cover the fallen guard, exactly as she had expected. "She's using our own weapons against us," Captain Mokhtar reported to the command center. "The human learns too quickly." Nari moved to a new position before the guards could return fire effectively. She had noticed that their energy shields worked well against direct attacks, but they had blind spots when the guards tried to coordinate their movements. By staying mobile and attacking from unexpected angles, she could pick them off one by one. The second guard fell when she activated a flame jet manually by throwing a piece of metal debris at the right control panel. The sudden burst of fire caught him off guard, and his armor's cooling system couldn't handle the heat. He collapsed from thermal overload. 10 left, Nari said to herself, moving again before the guards could surround her position. but something was happening that she hadn't expected. Two of the guards at the back of the formation were backing toward the arena entrance. They were supposed to be elite soldiers, but watching their comrades die was breaking their nerve. "Hold formation," Captain Mokhtar ordered through their communication system. "Do not retreat." "Sir, the human is not fighting like a normal gladiator," one of the retreating guards replied. "She's using military tactics. How does a civilian know combat strategies?" It was a good question. Nari had learned some fighting techniques from her father, who had been a soldier before becoming a miner, but most of what she was doing came from pure survival instinct. Growing up on a death world had taught her to adapt quickly to dangerous situations. She used the guard's confusion to launch another attack. This time she threw an energy cell like a grenade, causing it to explode near a group of 3 guards. Their armor protected them from the blast, but the bright flash blinded their sensors temporarily. While they were disoriented, Nari closed the distance and attacked with a captured energy sword. Her smaller size let her get inside their guard range, where their larger weapons became clumsy and hard to use. She fought like her father had taught. Her, fast, dirty, and focused on disabling the enemy as quickly as possible. 2 more guards went down before the others could react. The remaining 8 tried to regroup, but their formation was broken and their confidence was shattered. They could see that their superior equipment wasn't enough to guarantee victory against this human. "She's toying with us," one guard said over the communication channel. "The human could have killed us all by now, but she's making it last." That wasn't quite true. Nari was being careful because she knew she couldn't afford to make mistakes. But the guards' fear was making them see threats that weren't there and miss opportunities they should have taken. The real turning point came when 2 guards simply refused to advance any further. "I'm not dying for the entertainment of these spectators," Guard Yellen declared, throwing down his weapon. "The human has already proved her point." "Coward," Captain Mokhtar snarled, but even he was hesitating to move forward. In the royal viewing box, Emperor Corvin was furious. "Why are my elite guards afraid of one human female?" "Your Majesty, perhaps." "We should reconsider our approach," Arena Master Vorthak suggested carefully. "The human is clearly more dangerous than we anticipated." "I will not be humiliated by a deathworlder," the Emperor roared. "Send more guards. Send 100 if necessary." But down in the arena, the psychological battle was already over. The remaining guards could see that their comrades were breaking ranks, and they knew that fighting a determined enemy while their own side was falling apart was a recipe for disaster. When the 3rd guard threw down his weapons and retreated toward the exit, the formation collapsed completely. Some guards tried to continue fighting, but their hearts weren't in it anymore. They were going through the motions, hoping to survive rather than trying to win. Nari pressed her advantage, picking off the remaining fighters one by one. By the end of the 2nd hour, all 12 guards were either dead or had fled the arena in defeat. The crowd sat in stunned silence as Nari stood alone once again, surrounded by fallen enemies. But this time, the silence felt different. It wasn't surprise anymore, it was fear. "Bring me my brother," Nari shouted toward the royal box. "Or keep sending me your soldiers to die. I can do this all day." Emperor Corvin stared down at her with hatred in his eyes, but she could see something else there too. For the first time in his life, the ruler of a galactic empire was afraid of a single human being. In the arena's main broadcast booth, commentator Grex was having trouble finding words. The crystalline being's voice had been echoing across the galaxy for 15 years, describing gladiatorial combat to billions of viewers. But nothing had prepared him for what he was witnessing today. "Fellow beings, I must explain to our galactic audience what we are seeing," Grex announced, his translated voice reaching every corner of known space. "This human female comes from what we classify as a Class 12 deathworld. To understand her capabilities, you must understand what that means." On screens throughout the arena complex, data began appearing about Earth and its colonies. The information made the alien spectators gasp with disbelief and horror. The human homeworld has gravity nearly 3 times what most of us consider normal, Grex continued. Their atmosphere contains oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most galactic species. Their weather includes storms with winds that could tear apart our buildings. Down on the arena floor, Nari was using the break between fights to tend to her wounds. She had been cut by energy weapon fire and debris, but the injuries were minor by human standards. What the aliens didn't realize was that she was fighting in conditions that were actually easier than her normal environment. The surface temperature of human worlds ranges from levels that would freeze most of us solid to heat that would cook our flesh, the commentator went on. And yet humans consider these conditions normal. They raise their children in environments that we would use to execute criminals. In the crowd, aliens were looking at each other with growing unease. Many species in the galactic community had never actually visited a human world. They knew humans came from deathworlds, but hadn't understood what that really meant. Observer data indicates that this human female is currently operating at approximately 30% of her full physical capacity, Grex announced. The arena's gravity, atmosphere, and temperature are all significantly gentler than her native environment. Emperor Corvin leaned forward in his throne, his 4 arms clenched with tension. What are you saying, commentator? Your Majesty, I am saying that we are not seeing this human fight at full strength. We are seeing her fight while handicapped by conditions that are too easy for her body. The revelation sent whispers of fear through the crowd. If Nari was this dangerous while handicapped, what would she be capable of under normal human conditions? There is more, Your Majesty, Grex continued, consulting his data feeds. Human medical records show they can continue fighting with injuries that would kill or incapacitate most species. Their pain tolerance is approximately 4 times galactic average. Their healing rate is twice normal. And their psychological response to combat stress is completely different from other species. Different how? Arena Master Vorthak demanded. Most species become less effective when injured or frightened. Humans become more dangerous. Their bodies produce chemical compounds that enhance their strength, speed, and focus when they perceive mortal threats, what we call fear. They call adrenaline rush. Nari could hear the commentary through the arena's sound system, and it made her smile grimly. The aliens were finally beginning to understand what they had captured. She thought about her life. On New Busan, the crushing gravity, the toxic storms, the predatory wildlife that hunted in packs. Every day on her home world had been more dangerous than anything these arena fighters had ever faced. Additional data is now coming in from our xenobiology department, Grex announced. Human females, particularly those from frontier colonies, show enhanced survival instincts and protective behaviors when separated from family members. The specimen we are observing is likely experiencing what humans call protective rage regarding her captured sibling. The crowd was getting restless. Some aliens were leaving their seats, clearly disturbed by what they were learning. Others were pressing closer to the arena barrier, fascinated by the deadly human in their midst. I want to see the medical files on the human's brother, Emperor Corvin commanded. Your Majesty, the male human is currently in the modification chambers, Vorthak replied. Our surgeons are installing combat enhancement implants as standard procedure for gladiator candidates. Stop the procedure immediately, the Emperor ordered. Sir, the modifications are nearly complete. The male should be ready for arena combat within hours. I said stop it now. Emperor Corvin's voice echoed across the arena. If the female is this dangerous while trying to protect her brother, what will she do if she thinks we have harmed him? But it was too late. In the medical wing, Park Day was already waking up from the surgical procedures. Cybernetic implants had been installed in his nervous system, designed to enhance his reflexes and pain tolerance for better arena performance. The alien surgeons had no idea they had just made a human from a death world even more dangerous than nature had already made him. Down in the arena, Nari was testing the weapons she had collected from fallen enemies. She had figured out how to modify the energy rifles to fire at higher power levels, and had discovered that several pieces of alien technology could be combined to create improvised explosives. "Send the next group," she called toward the royal viewing box. "I'm getting bored waiting." "Your Majesty," Grex's voice carried a note of concern, "I am receiving reports from other arena worlds throughout the galaxy. Human gladiators on 12 different planets have been fighting today. 7 have won their matches. 3 have escaped their holding facilities. 2 have taken control of entire arena complexes." The whispers in the crowd became frightened conversations. If humans were proving dangerous on multiple worlds simultaneously, it suggested this wasn't just one exceptional individual. It might be normal for their species. "How is this possible?" Emperor Corvin demanded. "Humans are supposed to be a primitive species. They only achieved spaceflight recently. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Technology is not the same as capability, Your Majesty," Grex replied. "A species that evolves on deathworlds develops natural advantages that technology cannot easily replicate. Enhanced physical capabilities, superior adaptability, extreme persistence, and psychological resilience under stress." In the medical wing, alarms were starting to sound. Park. Day had woken up during the final stages of his surgery and was not reacting the way the alien doctors expected. Instead of being disoriented and weak from the procedures, he was alert, angry, and trying to break free from his restraints. "Sedate the human," the head surgeon ordered. "He is fighting the neural suppressors." But the sedatives that worked on other species had little effect on Day's deathworld physiology. His enhanced metabolism processed the drugs too quickly, and his cybernetic implants were actually amplifying his natural human abilities rather than controlling them. "Where is my sister?" Day demanded in perfect Korean, then switched to accented, Galactic Common. "What have you done to Lee Nari?" The medical staff backed away from the surgical table as Dai systematically destroyed his restraints. The cybernetic implants they had installed were supposed to make gladiators more obedient and manageable. Instead, they had given an already dangerous human access to enhanced reflexes and pain resistance. "Security to Medical Wing 7, the head surgeon called over the intercom. "The human male is loose." Back in the arena, Nari heard the security alert over the sound system. Her brother was awake and fighting. The knowledge filled her with fierce joy and renewed determination. "Last chance," she shouted toward Emperor Corvin. "Bring me my brother, or I start killing everyone you send me until you run out of soldiers." The Emperor looked down at her with hatred and growing fear. Around the galaxy, billions of viewers were watching this confrontation and learning things about humanity that would change interspecies relations forever. "Your Majesty," Arena Master Vorthak said quietly, "perhaps we should consider negotiation." "Never," Emperor Corvin snarled. "I will not negotiate with property. Send the champion. Send Zilani." In the crowd, aliens who knew about Zilani began talking excitedly. The four-armed insectoid champion had never lost a battle in 50 arena appearances. If anyone could defeat the human deathworlder, it would be the undefeated champion of Corvin Prime. But in the medical wing, Park Day was fighting his way through security guards toward the arena levels, enhanced by alien technology and driven by the need to find his sister. The real battle was just beginning. Zilani the Undefeated had been the champion of Corvin Prime for 7 years. The massive insectoid warrior stood 3 meters tall on 4 powerful legs, with 4 arms that could wield weapons independently. His exoskeleton was covered in scars from 50 arena battles, and his compound eyes could track multiple opponents simultaneously. In his private chambers beneath the arena, Zilani was preparing for what should have been another easy victory. He had watched recordings of the human's previous fights, studying her tactics and movement patterns. What he saw made him confident but cautious. "The human is clever," he admitted to his trainer, a smaller insectoid who helped maintain his weapons. She uses the environment well and learns quickly, but she is small and weak compared to me. Do not underestimate her, champion, the trainer replied. She has killed 20 enemies in 2 hours. That is more than most gladiators kill in their entire careers. Zelani clicked his mandibles in amusement. Those were ordinary soldiers. I am the champion. I have abilities they could never match. On the arena floor, Nari was examining the massive gates that were slowly opening on the far side of the fighting area. She could hear the crowd's excitement building as they anticipated seeing their undefeated champion in action. The sound system was playing dramatic music, and lights were flashing in patterns meant to build suspense. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," commentator Grex's voice boomed across the arena. "Presenting the undefeated champion of Corvin Prime. In 50 battles, he has never known defeat. The terror of the arena, the master of 4 blades, Zelani the undefeated." The champion emerged from the gates like a living nightmare. His 4 arms carried different weapons: an energy sword, a plasma whip, a projectile launcher, and a shield generator. His movements were fluid and precise, showing the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. But Nari had been watching the arena's display screens during her breaks between battles. She had seen recordings of Zelani's previous fights, and she had noticed something important that other opponents had missed. The champion was predictable. Zelani always started his fights the same way, charging forward with his energy sword while using his plasma whip to control distance. He relied on his size and multiple weapons to overwhelm opponents quickly. Most gladiators panicked when faced with 4 attacking limbs at once, making them easy targets. "Human female," Zelani called. Out in accented galactic common, "You have impressed the crowd with your victories over weak opponents. But now you face a true warrior. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." "I've got a better idea," Nari replied, checking the power levels on her captured weapons. "Why don't you come over here and try to kill me? I promise it will be more interesting than you expect." The crowd roared with excitement as the 2 fighters began circling each other. Emperor Corvin leaned forward in his throne, eager to see the troublesome human finally defeated. Arena Master Vorthak was taking bets from other officials on how long the fight would last. Zelani made his move exactly as Nari had predicted. He charged forward with his energy sword raised, while his plasma whip lashed out to prevent her from dodging to either side. It was an attack that had worked 50 times before against 50 different opponents. But instead of dodging backward or to the sides, Nari did something unexpected. She ran straight toward Zelani, getting inside the reach of his longer weapons before he could adjust his attack pattern. The champion's energy sword passed over her head as she slid beneath his guard. His plasma whip cracked uselessly in the air behind her. For a moment, all 4 of his weapons were pointed in the wrong direction, and he was off balance from his forward charge. Nari used that moment to strike at Zelani's legs with her captured energy rifle set to maximum power. The beam cut deep into the champion's exoskeleton, causing green fluid to spray across the arena sand. Zelani screamed in pain and rage, spinning around to bring his weapons to bear on the human. But she was no longer where he expected her to be. She had rolled away and was already moving to a new position, using her smaller size and mobility to stay out of his reach. "Impossible!" Zelani snarled. "No one has ever drawn my blood in the first exchange." "There's a first time for everything," Nari replied, reloading her weapon with a fresh power cell. The champion was no longer confident and casual. Pain from his wounded leg made his movements awkward, and he was starting to realize that this human fought differently from anyone he had faced before. She wasn't trying to match his strength or compete with his weapons. She was using his own advantages against him. Zelani tried a different approach, using his projectile launcher to fire explosive rounds while keeping his other weapons ready for close combat. The explosions kicked up sand and debris, creating a smoky haze that should have confused and blinded his opponent. But Nari had grown up hunting in the toxic storms of New Busan, where visibility was often zero and every sound could mean life or death. The arena's artificial smoke cloud was nothing compared to the natural hazards of her home world. She moved through the haze like a ghost, using sound and air currents to track Zilani's position. When she struck, it was from an angle he couldn't predict, targeting the joints in his exoskeleton where his natural armor was weakest. "She's using deathworld hunting techniques," commentator Grex explained to the stunned audience. "Humans evolved as persistence predators in environments with limited visibility. The champion's smokescreen is actually giving her an advantage." Zilani was beginning to panic, something that had never happened to him in arena combat. His compound eyes were designed to track multiple opponents in clear conditions, but the smoke and debris interfered with his vision. Meanwhile, the humans seemed to be able to find him no matter where he moved. The champion decided to end the fight quickly with his most devastating attack. He raised all 4 weapons and began firing in all directions, filling the air with energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive projectiles. It was a technique that had cleared entire arenas of multiple opponents. But Nari had been expecting something like this. She had noticed that when Zilani used all his weapons at once, he couldn't move effectively. His 4 arms were occupied with firing, leaving him stationary and vulnerable. She had also noticed something else during her study of his previous fights. The champion's shield generator was powered by the same energy source as his other weapons. When he fired everything at maximum power, the shield flickered and weakened. While Zilani filled the air with deadly energy, Nari made her way around to his blind spot. She waited for the exact moment when his shield generator cycled off to conserve power, then struck with every weapon she had. Energy beams, projectile rounds, and improvised explosives all hit Zilani simultaneously from his unprotected rear. His exoskeleton cracked, green fluid sprayed everywhere, and the champion of Corvin Prime crashed to the arena floor. The crowd fell silent in absolute shock. Their undefeated champion was down, wounded and bleeding, defeated by a small human, female, in less than 10 minutes of combat. Zilani tried to get back to his feet, but his damaged legs couldn't support his weight. He looked up at Nari with compound eyes full of disbelief and growing fear. "How?" he whispered. "How did you defeat me so easily?" "You're not the first big, scary predator I've had to kill," Nari replied, standing over him with a captured energy weapon. "On my world, things like you are just Tuesday." She raised the weapon to finish him, but Zilani held up one of his 4 hands in surrender. "I yield," he said formally. "By the laws of the arena, I acknowledge defeat. The human is the new champion." The crowd exploded into noise, some cheering, some booing, some making sounds of pure terror. In the royal viewing box, Emperor Corvin sat in stunned silence, staring down at his defeated champion. But in the medical wing, alarms were still sounding as Park Day fought his way through security forces, enhanced by alien technology and driven by the desperate need to reach his sister. The arena had a new champion, but the real battle was just beginning. 4 hours had passed since Lee Nari first stepped into the arena. The sand beneath her feet was stained with alien blood from dozens of fallen opponents, and the improvised fortress she had built from debris and fallen equipment dominated the center of the fighting area. No one would enter the arena anymore. Arena Master Vorthak stood at the edge of the combat zone, his scales shifting between colors of frustration and fear. Behind him, a full battalion of guards waited with weapons, ready, but none of them would step onto the sand where the human waited. "This is ridiculous," Vorthak snarled into his communication device. "She is one small female. You are trained soldiers." "Sir, have you seen what she did to the champion?" Guard Captain Mokhtar replied from his position near the arena entrance. "Zilani was 3 times her size and had 4 weapons. She defeated him in 10 minutes. "Then use ranged weapons, bombardment from the stands, gas attacks." Sir, Emperor Corvin has forbidden us from damaging the arena structure, and the human has demonstrated immunity to most of our non-lethal gases. Her deathworld physiology processes toxins differently. In her improvised fortress, Nari was making good use of the time her enemies were giving her. She had learned to operate most of the alien technology she had captured, and had discovered that several different weapon systems could be combined to create much more powerful devices. The energy rifles could be overloaded to create grenades. The shield generators could be linked together to create barriers. The communication devices could be hacked to monitor enemy conversations. Growing up on a frontier world had taught her to fix and modify anything mechanical and alien technology. Wasn't that different from human equipment once you understood the basic principles? Arena control to guard Captain Mokhtar. Vorthak's voice crackled over the communication system. The Emperor demands immediate resolution of this situation. Our galactic broadcast is still active. Billions of beings across the galaxy are watching. This human make fools of us. Then turn off the broadcast, sir. We can't! The human has somehow gained control of the arena's communication systems. Every time we try to cut the signal, she overrides our commands. It was true. Nari had spent part of her break time figuring out how the arena's broadcast equipment worked. She wanted the galaxy to see what was happening here. The more aliens who witnessed human capabilities, the less likely they would be to try capturing and enslaving her people in the future. Attention galactic audience, Nari's voice echoed across the arena and throughout known space. My name is Lee Nari, from the human colony of New Busan. I was captured by slavers and brought here against my will. All I want is my brother Park Day returned to me safely and transportation back to our home world. The human is broadcasting to the entire galaxy, Vorthak reported to Emperor Corvin. She's turning this into a political incident. In the royal viewing box, Emperor Corvin was facing the worst crisis of his reign. Representatives from dozens of alien species were demanding explanations. Some were concerned about human capabilities and wanted to reassess their relations with human colonies. Others were angry about the public embarrassment to galactic authority. Your Majesty, his chief advisor whispered, we're receiving communications from the Galactic Council. They want to know why we're holding illegal gladiatorial games with sentient beings from registered civilizations. This was supposed to be a simple entertainment event, the Emperor replied through clenched teeth. How did it become a galactic incident? Sir, the human's broadcast is being picked up by news services across the galaxy. There are protests starting on dozens of worlds. Some species are demanding investigations into all arena operations. On the arena floor, Nari continued her broadcast while monitoring alien communication channels. She could hear the growing panic in their voices as they realized the political implications of what was happening. I'm not asking for much, she continued. Just my brother and safe passage home. But if you keep sending soldiers to try to kill me, I'll keep defending myself. And judging by what I've seen so far, I can do this for a very long time. In the medical wing, Park Day had fought his way past 3 levels of security. The cybernetic implants the aliens had installed were working better than anyone had expected, enhancing his already formidable human capabilities to superhuman levels. Security alert level maximum! The facility-wide announcement system blared. Armed hostile! In Medical Wing 7, all personnel evacuate immediately. Day moved through the corridors like a force of nature, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge energy weapon fire, while his improved strength let him tear through security barriers like paper. The alien medical staff fled before him, abandoning their equipment and research in their haste to escape. Where is my sister? He demanded of every alien he encountered. What have you done to Linari? Most of them were too terrified to answer, but eventually he found a surgeon who was willing to talk. The female human is in the arena. The alien gasped as Day held him against a wall. She has been fighting for hours. She won't stop until you are returned to her. Then take me to her, Day commanded. I can't. The arena is sealed. No one is allowed in or out. Day released the surgeon and began looking for another route to the arena levels. The cybernetic implants had enhanced more than just his physical abilities. His mental processing was faster, his memory was clearer, and his spatial awareness was dramatically improved. He could navigate the complex facility by analyzing the layout patterns and following the main structural supports. Back in the arena, Nari was receiving reports through the hacked communication system about her brother's progress. Every security checkpoint he breached brought him closer to her location, and every guard who fled from him proved that humans were far more dangerous than the aliens had realized. "Your Majesty," Arena Master Vorthak approached Emperor Corvin with obvious reluctance. "We have a new problem. The male human has escaped from the medical wing. He's fighting his way toward the arena, and our security forces can't stop him." "What?" Emperor Corvin's forearms gestured wildly. "How is that possible? He was sedated and restrained." "The cybernetic implants, Your Majesty. They were designed to enhance gladiator performance, but they've made the human even more dangerous than he was naturally. Our surgeons accidentally created a super soldier." "Then send more guards. Use heavier weapons." "Sir, we've already lost 43 security personnel trying to stop him. The survivors are refusing to engage. They're saying it's suicide to fight an enhanced human in close quarters." In the arena, Nari smiled as she heard this report. Her brother was alive, enhanced, and coming to find her. The aliens had tried to turn him into a better gladiator, but instead they had made him into the perfect rescue operative. "Last chance," she announced over the galactic broadcast system. "Bring my brother to the arena safely, or I start breaking things that are expensive to replace." To demonstrate her point, she fired a modified energy weapon at one of the arena's main structural supports. The beam cut through the metal like butter, causing a section of the upper stands to sag ominously. The crowd screamed and began evacuating their seats as debris rained down. Emperor Corvin realized that the human wasn't just threatening to kill. More guards! She was threatening to bring down the entire arena complex. "She's going to collapse the building," Vorthak reported. "Your Majesty, we need to evacuate immediately." But it was too late for evacuation. Deep in the facility's lower levels, Park Day had found the main power conduits that supplied the arena's systems. With his enhanced strength and knowledge of engineering principles, he was systematically shutting down the complex's infrastructure. The lights began flickering as power systems failed. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the facility, and somewhere, in the darkness, two humans from a death world were about to reunite. The galaxy was watching, and everything was about to change. The lights in the grand arena of Corvin Prime flickered and died as Park Day severed the final power conduit. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the massive complex as backup systems struggled to maintain basic life support. In the sudden darkness, Emperor Corvin finally understood that he was no longer in control of the situation. "Your Majesty," Arena Master Vorthak's voice was tight with panic. "The human male has shut down primary power to the entire facility. We're running on emergency systems only." "How is that possible?" Emperor Corvin demanded. "The power systems are heavily shielded and protected by multiple security layers." "Sir, the cybernetic implants we installed have enhanced his intelligence as well as his physical capabilities. He appears to understand our technology better than our own engineers." On the arena floor, Nari heard the power systems failing and knew her brother was close. She had been monitoring his progress through the hacked communication systems, tracking his movement through the facility as he systematically dismantled the aliens' ability to keep them imprisoned. "Attention, Emperor Corvin," she announced over the emergency broadcast system, her voice reaching every corner of the galaxy where beings were still watching the unprecedented events unfold. "My brother is free, enhanced by your own technology and very angry about what you've done to us. You have exactly 10 minutes to bring him to me safely, or he's going to start taking this place apart piece by piece." In the royal viewing box, Emperor Corvin was surrounded by panicking advisors and fleeing dignitaries. The representatives from other species were demanding immediate evacuation, while his own officials were trying to find some way to regain control of the situation. "Your Majesty, we're receiving priority communications from the Galactic Council," his chief advisor reported. "They're demanding immediate resolution of this incident. The humans' broadcast has caused riots on 17 worlds and diplomatic protests from 37 governments." "What do they want me to do?" Emperor Corvin snarled. "They want you to negotiate with the humans, Your Majesty. The incident has become too public to handle with force. The entire galaxy is watching." Before the Emperor could respond, a new voice echoed through the arena's emergency communication system. It was deeper than Nari's voice, with the same accent, but carrying a tone of barely controlled rage. "This is Park Day. I'm in your central computer core, and I have access to all your facility records. I know what you did to the other humans you brought here. I know about the experiments, the modifications, the ones who died in your games." Day's enhanced processing capabilities had allowed him to hack into the arena's main database in minutes. What he found there filled him with cold fury. Records of dozens of humans captured and enslaved, most of them killed for entertainment, others subjected to surgical experiments or sold to other facilities across the galaxy. "I want justice for every human who died in this place," Day continued, his voice broadcast to billions of viewers across known space. "But first, I want my sister returned to me safely. You have 5 minutes to make that happen." "What will he do if we refuse?" Vorthak asked nervously. As if in answer to his question, one of the arena's massive structural supports suddenly groaned and twisted. Day had found the facility's gravity control systems and was systematically overloading them. Parts of the building were experiencing crushing gravitational forces, while other sections became weightless. "He's going to collapse the entire complex," Emperor Corvin realized. "With us inside it. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider meeting the humans' demands." The chief advisor suggested carefully, "Never. I will not negotiate with property." But even as Emperor Corvin spoke, cracks were appearing in the arena walls as Day continued his systematic destruction of the facility's infrastructure. The massive complex that had taken decades to build was being brought down by one enhanced human who understood their technology better than they did. "Your Majesty," a new voice interrupted. It was General Thax, the highest-ranking military officer on Corvin Prime. "Sir, I recommend immediate evacuation of all personnel and full compliance with the humans' demands." "Are you suggesting we surrender to 2 deathworlders?" "Sir, I'm suggesting we cut our losses before this incident sparks a galactic war. The humans have already demonstrated capabilities that threaten the stability of our entire civilization. If word spreads that individual humans can single-handedly destroy major facilities, it will undermine alien authority throughout the galaxy." The general was right, and everyone in the viewing box knew it. The humans had already accomplished something that no previous gladiators, rebels, or invaders had ever managed. They had made the Corvin Empire look weak and incompetent in front of the entire galaxy. "Time's up," Day's voice echoed through the arena. "I'm coming to get my sister now. Anyone who tries to stop me dies." The emergency lighting flickered as another power system failed. In the distance, they could hear the sound of metal tearing as Day made his way through the facility's defenses like they were made of paper. "All guards, retreat to minimum safe distance," General Thax ordered over the military communication channel. "Do not engage the human male. Repeat, do not engage." "General, you're countermanding my orders," Emperor Corvin protested. "Your Majesty, with respect, your orders are going to get us all killed. The humans have demonstrated that they can destroy this facility and everyone in it. Our only option is to give them what they want and hope they leave peacefully." The debate was ended when the arena's main gates suddenly buckled and tore apart. Park Day emerged from the twisted metal like an avenging spirit, his cybernetic enhancements giving him strength and speed that seemed impossible even by deathworld standards. He was covered in alien blood from the guards who had tried to stop him, and his eyes burned with protective fury as he searched the arena for his sister. The emergency lighting reflected off his enhanced muscles and cybernetic implants, making him look like something from the alien's worst nightmares. "Day!" Nari called out from her improvised fortress, relief flooding her voice. "Nari, are you hurt?" He sprinted across the arena sand, moving faster than any human should have been able to move. "I'm fine. Angry, but fine." She emerged from her defensive position, and the two siblings embraced in the center of the arena while billions of viewers across the galaxy watched. "We need to get out of here," Day said quietly. "This place is going to collapse soon. I may have overdone the structural damage." "Not yet," Nari replied, looking up at the royal viewing box where Emperor Corvin sat frozen with indecision. "We need to send a message first." She activated the broadcast system one final time, her voice carrying across the galaxy with absolute authority. "This is Lee Nari, speaking to every government, corporation, and individual who might be thinking about capturing humans for slavery or entertainment. You've seen what two humans can do when you threaten our families. We're not rare specimens or exotic curiosities. We're people, and we protect our own. But we're also reasonable," Day added, his enhanced voice carrying easily across the arena. "Leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. Try to enslave us again, and you'll discover that what happened here today was just a small demonstration of human capabilities." Emperor Corvin finally found his voice. "What do you want from us?" "Safe passage home," Nari replied simply. "Transportation back to New Busan with no tracking devices or pursuit. And a public announcement that the Corvin Empire will no longer participate in the slave trade of any sentient species." "And compensation," Day added. "For every human who died in your arenas, you will pay reparations to their families. The records are all in your database. I've already transmitted copies to human governments and the Galactic Council." The siblings stood together in the center of the ruined arena, surrounded by the wreckage of alien technology and the bodies of those who had tried to stop them. They were covered in blood and debris, but their eyes were clear and determined. "Do we have an agreement?" Nari asked. Emperor Corvin looked around at his advisors, his military commanders, and the fleeing spectators. The grand arena of Corvin. Prime was in ruins, his reputation was destroyed, and the entire galaxy was watching his humiliation. "Agreed," he said finally. "You will have safe passage home and full compensation for past incidents." "Good," Day replied. "We'll need a ship prepared within the hour. Something fast and well supplied for the journey to human space." As the siblings walked toward the arena exit, the galactic broadcast continued to transmit their image to billions of viewers. They looked small and fragile compared to the massive aliens around them, but everyone watching understood that appearances could be deceiving. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in a way that would never be forgotten. Two young people from a death world had brought down an empire's greatest arena and humiliated its rulers in front of the entire civilized universe. Word would spread quickly through the galactic community. Human colonies would be left alone. Slave raids on human worlds would cease, and whenever aliens gathered to discuss the dangers of the galaxy, they would speak in hushed voices about the deathworld species that could turn any situation into a tactical advantage.